All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sports with Skiz show. Today, we are very happy to have a special guest. He's the special teams coordinator, or special teams, excuse me, quality control coach at Old Dominion by way of the 814 in Portage, Pennsylvania. A good friend of mine, Shane Baker. Shane, welcome to the show, my man.
Appreciate you guys having me, man. This is an awesome opportunity. Very thankful that you're inviting me on, man. This is a cool deal for me.
Absolutely. Well, we're definitely honored to have you, man. Let's just start it off hot, man. How was that huge win walking into Virginia Tech and upsetting the Hokies there?
Yeah, it was a big time win for us. I think credit goes to everybody that's involved in the program, whether that's our strength coaches, our student assistants, our athletic training staff, the players, our equipment people. I think, everybody was pulling the rope that day, and you could tell, everybody had a mission that day. Whenever you go walk into a place like that, it's going to have 70,000 people in it. And, they have their entrance. It's really cool, and, you can see how it does, like those things intimidate teams. So, but our guys responded really well. They played hard. They wanted it. They believed in themselves. And whenever we delivered a punch and got punched back, we didn't go away. And that was something that was great is we kept swinging all day. And you could see it, in the way we were playing, guys running to the ball, guys finishing blocks, creating turnovers, explosive plays, not getting behind the chains a bunch. It was a lot of good things that happened for us that day to, give us that win.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think you guys jumped out to a 31 to nothing lead before I even blinked, which was crazy to see. But the first question I want to ask, just for the people at home or people listening that might not know, before we jump into some of your background and how you got to where you are, can you kind of walk the people through what exactly a special teams quality control
Yeah.
coach is?
Yeah. So what I do here, I do a lot of organizational things, like day-to-day things that help us move smoothly. And then, obviously like helping, coach specialists as well. We do have a specialist coach, excuse me, as well. His name's Craig Peterson. He kicked in the Arena League for over 10 years. He's a really good kicker. So I think he does a great job with teaching our guys. But, some of the things, help with scheme development, fundamentals, basics, all that kind of stuff, because what a lot of people don't know about special teams is you're taking everybody in the program, from the offensive line to the quarterbacks. They're all involved somehow in the
Mhm.
program on special teams. So it's very important for us to have a good structure. We try to keep things as simple as possible. Our teaching points, whatever we do, we try to make it the best way to put it, very linear. That way, we use same as language from offense and defense, for some terms and things like that. That way our kids understand when they hear it, this is what it means,
Mhm.
and that way they can go out there, they can get lined up, they can play fast and they can play hard. So a lot of the things that I do, whether it's, drawing diagrams for those guys, finding teach clips, even if it's with us or if it's NFL tape or other colleges, we do a lot of stuff, a lot of watching film. So we get those techniques from there. We even hit up other people that we know at places to see how
Mhm.
they teach things. So there's a lot of things that, we do to help our guys make sure that, we're constantly evolving. But yeah, that's a lot of things that I do. Yeah, the data entry, all that kind of stuff. Watch a lot of film,
Mhm.
because you see what people do, you see what they like to do, their bread and butter. But whenever it comes to changes and things like that, it's always good to know what people like to go to. That way you can have a plan as well.
Gotcha. No, I like that. I figured you'd be obviously involved a lot in film. Real quick, knock, and then I'll let you ask one just because I want to piggyback off of that. Is there anything specifically like in film that you're looking for or paying
Mhm.
attention to maybe relay to the coordinators or
Yeah.
anything like that?
There's a few things. Obviously, like it's just like offense and defense. There's still tendencies and things like that
Mhm.
that you can find. Um, whether guys are lined up a specific way, which guys they like to use to maybe, block. Like whenever they set a double team on kickoff return, they might have some guys that they like to use, or on
Mhm.
kickoff, they have a guy that's, he's really fast down the field. So they put him in this spot typically. So he'll get down the field fast and, kind of start to change the picture and get that returner to either cut or not go where he wants to go. So those are some things that, you watch for as well. But like I said, you're looking for kind of anything, and it could be the smallest thing is, when they align like this is when they've shown their fake,
Mhm.
but it might have been 4 years ago, 3 years ago, you know what I mean? So sometimes you're looking at clips from all the way back then. I've had to
Crazy.
pull clips. Yeah, I've had to pull clips of fakes, 10 years ago, literally. Like I wasn't even coaching. I was still in college and like I have had to pull fakes, from coaches that have done that. So, we truly turn over, every rock, whenever we are preparing for a team.
Awesome.
Yeah, Shane, if I could hop in there for a moment. Again,
Mhm.
congratulations on the win last weekend. You guys, let me see. Virginia Tech paid you guys, if I'm not mistaken, 400K, somewhere around there, just to play you guys. I just out of curiosity, how much of that does the program see? How is it
Mhm.
divvied up? Is that incentive to the players and coaches? In other words, like you guys get a little bonus or whatever the case is. I mean, how can you break that down for me at all?
Yeah. So I don't know. I know like here, I'll say like the typical answer. Typically like that goes to either your football budget or other athletic department budgets. That's typically where that stuff kind of goes. Usually it's like all the athletic admins that handle that one, excuse me. So I don't exactly know where it goes, you know what I mean? But it doesn't go to like our like salaries or NIL, at least to my knowledge.
Mhm.
There's some things that there where it may go to different avenues, but as far as right now, like it's typically it helps fund the rest of the programs around campus.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool to get that inside knowledge. Good question, Knock. Sorry
Yeah.
not to cut you off.
No, you're good. Like I said, I always wonder, how the football program sees that money.
Mhm.
When do they see it? Do they get to building facilities and kind of helping the school out a little bit right away? Do they let it sit? You know what I mean? So I was
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm sure people have like different like operational plans for that kind of stuff. But like I'm sure like our head coach is involved with that in some way, shape, or form, but
okay.
it's just not a conversation I'm involved in. As a young guy analyst, I'm not really involved in that one. But yeah, no, it's definitely like interesting, because everybody handles it differently, I'm sure, as well, depending on where you are and like what your situation is financially, like at your institution that you're at.
Understood.
Just to backtrack a little bit here for people who don't know, Shane and I spent a little bit of time at Lock Haven together. Shane, you went in as a wide receiver and then switched over to the defensive backs coach. Now, the main thing that I want to ask you with you getting into coaching, was there a point in time that you knew you wanted to get into coaching? Was it in college? Was it in
Mhm.
high school? When did you know that you kind of wanted to take that next step and, be a coach?
Yeah, so it was really like whenever I was in undergrad that I was like, I want to coach, but at that point it was just like I just want to go back. I'll go back to Portage, coach high school football, be a PE teacher, and keep things going that way, So it was definitely a little bit, wasn't planned by any stretch of the means, as I was getting ready to graduate, the coaches at Lock Haven, they approached me and they kind of just tossed it out to me. And I said, sure, why not? Why not give this thing a try? I love the game, obviously. I get to coach it at a higher level. And I knew it would be difficult. I knew that they warned me about, all the time sacrifice you have and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. Um, but I just kind of said, give it a shot and we'll see where it goes, and, here we are now, a couple years later. I still love it the way I did, my first year. It's hard I often think of myself as I've gotten older. Um, I usually think of like, where would I be or what would I be doing, if I wasn't where I am right now. And it's really hard to answer that,
Mhm.
It just goes to show like how much, I enjoy it, being a coach, it doesn't matter where I was, just being around the game still. In that capacity because it's like I've told people before, like it's the closest thing to playing still,
Mhm.
because once everybody's clock runs out at some point, so I think it's really the a lot of coaches, this is their closest way to, playing still.
Right. Yeah, and I love hearing that because I know that I miss the locker room and the vibes. That was always, putting on the music, doing your
Yep.
reps, getting in those workouts. So it's awesome that you still get to have that, team camaraderie and leadership feel, which is awesome. But you've always been, even at Lock Haven, you've always been a regimented guy. So I knew that you'd be fit for some type of position within this, realm.
Yeah, it's a great thing to be a part of still, I have a
Mm-hmm.
great support system around me. They've helped me, through the ups and downs, you know what I mean? Through the wins and the losses, all that kind of stuff, so and that goes a long way as well for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Shane, real quick, Mike told me about your extensive background in
Mhm.
coaching and the avenues that you've crossed. I mean, offense, defense, defensive backs, receivers, running backs. From my understanding, you've learned the offensive line. When you first got there, you had to learn some offensive line blocking schemes.
Yeah.
What's that like in having to transition? I know you played both sides of the ball back in the day. And also, what's your favorite position to coach as well?
Oh, I'll start there. I'd probably say it's probably my favorite to coach DBs. But whenever I was at Shippensburg, I was coaching the safeties and I loved it. It was good, it was good to see how, for me at least, whenever I was, because I got to run my own indie, things like that. Like I got to see what drills, would translate to the game, and to me, that's where I learned, keeping things simple, keeping it to the same movements that it's gonna, translate to the game. Where like I kind of adopted that principle. But go repeat the first part of your question again. I'm sorry.
No, just with your extensive background in different phases of the sport, offense, defense, special teams, the offensive line.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Learning those and how difficult was that for you? And also, like, what's your favorite? Obviously, you just answered with the defense.
Yeah. So to me, like to learn that stuff, I didn't learn it on my own. I had a really good mentor. His name was Bill Nickel. He's now the head coach at Defiance College in Ohio. He did a great job, helping me out, learning it because he knew that I didn't know a single thing. You know what I mean? Like I understood that, like yeah, like that there was a slide side and a man side, or if it's full slide, or what if it's big on big, whatever the scheme was, But it is certainly difficult, from the very, the 100 level when you start, to get to that 400 level. I don't even know if I ever got to the 400 level, to be honest with you, because it was I was there for I was coaching there for about 8 months or so, 7, 8 months. So, he was at that 400 level and he's a great coach, and he did a great job, being patient with me, teaching me the steps and how the count works with certain protections and where with if they're going to pressure, if the running back is going to own him on the pressure, which typically he does, so like he goes, if it's from the Mike to the Sam, or if it's from the will to the free, because if he starts walking down, all that kind of stuff, so like there's a lot of different things that it goes into. But I did have, I did not do it by myself in any way, shape, or form. Like I had to take a lot of notes. I had to watch a lot of film. I remember, when I was first breaking down games and learning this stuff, I was like, and you could finally see like, oh, like this is cover one, like this is their you got a 4-2 box. You know what I mean? Like the three technique is set to the field. You know what I mean? Like all that type of stuff is something that takes time to learn, especially for me, who was a guy that, played receiver in corner, like you don't know what a three tech is whenever you're playing. You don't know what a split front or a tight front or bare front. Like I didn't know that. I knew, I understood coverage, but then the great thing is, you learn how, the front and the coverage tie into each other, especially when you coach defense, as I was at Shippensburg, and I learned more as I got there and learned more stuff on the fronts then, and the linebacker fits as well. So it's kind of like a try to be a sponge, take as much notes as you can. I have like an iPad that has a bunch of notes in it, and I have a notebook. I have notebooks, I'll say, paperback like notebooks that have just tons of notes in them. I mean, my girlfriend, she always tells me like we're gonna throw these away, but they'll never get thrown away.
No, keep those until the dust comes on them, right?
Yeah, yeah. Those things will be artifacts one day.
That's awesome. That was a great question, Knock.
That's so cool, and you don't want to get Red Bow. Keep your notebook tight.
Yes, Shane, you mentioned him too. Shout out Coach Nickel. I think after Lock Haven and before he was the head coach at Defiance, I think he went to Arkansas Pine Bluff, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken,
yeah,
and
he was
coached O
there.
line there too.
Yeah, he was there. And then I don't know the order. I can't remember the order
Yeah,
specifically, but he was
I
at
can't
Lake
remember
Erie
if
for
he
a
went
little bit as
back.
well.
Right. I think he
Yeah,
might have been at Lake Erie, then Defiance. Yeah, I had
yeah.
a cup of coffee with him after Coach Spriggs went to Delaware State at Lock Haven. For those that don't know, a cup of coffee is a real quick time, but he was always awesome to me. So I like Coach Nickel there. But a question that I have for you too, just whenever you were coaching at Shippensburg, right? You were fairly new and you were very young as well
Mhm.
too. Did you kind of feel like those young guys lean into you in your position group just because you could, understand them a little bit more than some of those coaches that have been, that are the age gap just being different? Did you feel like those young guys kind of leaned on you a little bit more?
Yeah, it's still a thing, even now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to always kind of be that guy. They do lean on you, and it could be something small, it could be something big. You know what I mean? And the thing is, like, you just be the. It's not about, whenever they come to you for something, it's not about saying, okay, like I need to point you in this direction because of this, and this. Sometimes you just need to listen to
Mm-hmm.
what they need to say, and it's not about you, it's about what they need. So I think it's important to listen to them in that aspect, you know what I mean? And because they trust you, you know what I mean? So if they're trusting you, to come to you in a situation where they might just need an opinion on something, you know what I mean? Or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be, like I said, it could be big, it could be small.
Mm-hmm.
But just being able to be there for them, be consistent. That's the other thing I'll say is, being consistent for them day in and day out, because, we need to trust each other each and every single day, because whenever the bullets start flying and in the game of football, there's hills and valleys. You want to ride the highs and get out of the lows. So it's just being able to sustain that consistently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear. I figured so as well too. Knock, you got another question?
Yeah, I do. I mean, Shane, you're special teams guy. I want you to talk to me a little bit about your kicker, Riley Gallagher. Six
Mhm.
foot four, 200 pounds, kids just as big as some of your defensive linemen. Uh, Drilled a 50-yard bomb versus Virginia Tech. Can you tell me the preparation that goes into getting a kicker ready for game day and your involvement with that as well?
Mhm.
And can you tell me a little bit about Riley and his demeanor and who he is as a football player? Because he hasn't missed a kick yet, so something is right. You guys are on track. You've got him.
Yeah. Well, I'll knock first off. I'll knock on wood there
Yeah, we
for
might have
not
to edit
missing
that
kick.
out. Yeah, the
Yeah.
announcer jinx.
But yeah, I think I'll start like kind of with like what we do in practice. Coach Peterson, like I said, he has a good plan for those guys every single day. Does a really good job handling them. Because kickers can go through like a slump, just like a baseball hitter does. You know what I mean? And with kicking, like it's such a unique movement and skill that you have to like now that I've been around it for a little bit, I can see things more and see and make corrections. But sometimes it's just even getting those guys to say like, hey, like I think you just need to stop thinking about it. Just do it.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like I always compare things to like other sports. It's like whenever you shoot a free throw, you want it to be just the same movement over and over and over and over again. It's the same thing for a kicker. I want you to repeat the same movement over and over and over again. That way we can get as close to, the same rep consistently. Um, but the way we prepare those guys, we try to keep a good routine in, especially during the season. It's about keeping guys fresh, because you're really starting, your first game at the end of August, early September, and your last game, before you hit the conference championship, bowl, playoff, whatever the case is, our last game is Thanksgiving weekend. You know what I mean? So that's a long
Crazy.
time. Yeah. So, and you want guys to be fresh. Like I want them to still hit their we call it an A ball, right? I want them to hit their A ball on that last game as well, or if we're playing in the conference championship or a bowl game, whatever the case is. Like, so it's a lot of management as well. Like we have all their reps tracked. They do a lot of recovery during the week, active recovery, whether it's with the strength coaches, or they're in our athletic training facilities. They get in the hot tubs, the cold tubs, the bubble legs. They get cupping done. Guys get dry needling as well. We have a lot of different avenues for those guys to take to make sure, they're fresh and they're maintaining their legs still. So, and I think Riley is, as a player, he's very level-headed. As a person, he's not too, like, I don't think I've ever seen the kid like yell or show like hardly any emotion. He's kind of stone-faced, but it's great though because he's gonna run out there and he's gonna knock it down. He believes in himself. It was great to see him make that field goal. We all know he has the leg talent to do it. You know what I mean? But that's in an environment, where we kind of shut the door on those guys. We were up 28, I think, at the time or whatever. And then that extended the lead to 31. But it was good to just see him go out there and hit the ball. I think if I remember correctly, it probably would have been good for about 3 or 4 more yards as well. So to see him have that is great. And I think we have a really good group of specialists in general. A lot of talented guys. Our punter is actually from State College, Ian Brandt.
Oh, nice.
We got another. Yeah, we got
814, baby.
Yeah,
love
and
that.
He does a great job as well. He was a quarterback at State High. So he's an athlete, and he kind of transitioned into the specialist world, and he does a great job. He's and what's great about him is he's extremely competitive. All of our guys are extremely competitive because they want to be really good. So I think, like I said, I think we have a really good room in general. These guys are really good. We don't have a problem. If someone's got to go in the game to do whatever, we're not going to blink. We're not going to flinch. You know what I mean?
I have a quick, Mike, if you wouldn't mind, I have a quick sidebar question to that for Shane as well. Shane, what's it like preparing, I guess, your punters and your kickers, but the special teams in general, long snapping, things like that, for the winter time, for the cold season? I know kicking that ball is a lot different. Obviously, it's harder. The air is colder, hurts your foot a little bit more. What do these guys do? Do they do anything differently to transition from September to late November, December kind of deal?
It is a great question. It does affect us here a little bit as well, because like even though we are in Virginia, like in November, like I mean, whenever we play those later games in the year, it's going to be probably around the 40s, in the 40s. So yeah, you're right. Like the ball is, it's a little bit stiffer. It doesn't travel as far. And with that fact, like as far as special teams, like especially like on kickoff, you know what I mean? Like typically, if you got a guy that's a touchback guy, he's hitting the ball, 5 yards deep or out of the end zone, whatever. Once it starts to get colder, like you're definitely gonna, have to tell your guys that we're gonna have to cover more kicks. You know what I mean? Because they're gonna return the ball. I know. I mean, especially I've talked to guys in the Big Ten before, in the MAC, and their numbers, like their guys, like the way they chart, like it drops off drastically. Once it starts to get colder, and obviously like wind plays a factor as well. You know what I mean? But just that cold weather, it does change the ball. It makes that leather stiffer, and it doesn't bounce off their foot like it typically does. Yeah, that's a great question.
Sweet. Yeah, of course. Thanks.
Good stuff there, Knock. Keeping it with the special teams right now, I feel like in high school, it kind of gets frowned upon if you're on special teams and everything like that. But what do you think the biggest misconception to players, mainly fans as well, too? Like, what's the biggest misconception about special teams?
Yeah. I mean, I know in our program, Coach Ronnie, our head coach, does a great job of, having starters on offense and defense play on special teams, because, he understands and knows that, one, we're going to have, if our starters are playing, we're going to have, a better product because of that, on the field. Like we're going to have guys that are running and rolling down the field there. But as well, like the guys have to understand that if you want to play in the NFL, like you're probably going to have to play special teams unless you're a first or second rounder, especially at those skill positions. Like there's only a handful of receivers, only a handful of corners, safeties and linebackers, and, they're going to not have their top 10, safety run down on kickoff, you know what I mean? Because they're paying him X amount of money, so that's where like we do that as well. And the other cool thing that we do, like during camp, especially, we'll do it sometimes during the bye weeks like this. So what I'll do is in the summer or in the spring, I'll go watch all the top special teams players in the NFL. And I'll go find clips of them doing the skills and like the drills that we teach. I find them like doing those things, So it's a cool thing to show our guys that, and like those guys are obviously the role players in special teams, So what we do, well, excuse me, what I'll do is I'll go like and I'll look up where they came from, how many years they've been in the league, how many snaps they've played on special teams, and then how many snaps they've played on their respective side of the ball. So a
Hmm.
guy might have played, 350 snaps on special teams while only playing like 50 on defense for the
Right.
entire year. You know what I mean? So like it just goes to show, like we go to show our guys like, hey, whenever we're teaching you these techniques, like we're not just doing it for fun, like there is a point behind this. So you can have these techniques, in your tool belt. That way, when you go to the NFL, you have them and you're going to make an impact. That way you can have a sustained career.
Yeah. Right. That's awesome to hear because I think that goes by the wayside more so to
Mhm.
the fans. I don't think they really realize that, but you look at guys like Miles Killebrew in the NFL for the
Yeah.
Steelers, who's been with the Steelers for so long, majority playing special teams, but
Yep.
he's a Pro Bowler. He earns millions of dollars running down on kickoff. And one other thing that I wanted to ask you too, just with all the changes in the NFL with like kickoff and stuff like that, do you see that coming to college football at all?
It's a great question. We've talked about it and like we'll do some like off-season study stuff, just to make sure like we are in case that change does happen, we're not behind the eight ball and way
Hmm.
behind. You know what I mean? Trying to figure out like what's the best schematically thing to do or what are the best techniques to use. Um, so that's really hard to answer. I don't
Right.
know. I would say like that the NCAA, like, because obviously the NFL, like the reason they did this was because they collected a lot of data. You know what I mean? Like it's just data supported. So I would assume that, the NCAA at some point will ask them, or the NFL shares it with them. I'm not exactly
Hmm.
sure. You know what I mean? But it very well could be, because the way the game has been trending the last 10 years, you know what I mean? It's more injury preventative, protecting players, which is great because that means guys can play longer. It's safer for the younger generations as well, and that's what
Hmm.
keeps the game alive. So that is a great question. I do think maybe one day, but as of right
Right.
now, I don't know. Like I said,
Gotcha.
I think they're just trying to collect a bunch of data on it and see what avenue to take with that.
Gotcha.
Shane, you were talking about the NFL and how you like to study,
Mhm.
some of the best special teamers in the league. Just out of curiosity, do you have a favorite special team? Like, is there a team that you watch specifically? Is there a coach that you admire the most? I mean, who do you emulate when you're watching this kind of stuff, and how do you bring it to the practice field?
Yeah. Um, as far as like NFL goes, I wouldn't say that I have a specific guy that like special teams coordinator that I watch. But like as far as like kickoff return, excuse me, as far as like because their kickoff return's a little bit different, you know what I mean? It's kind of tougher, like we just talked about
Hmm.
there. Even like their punts a lot different as well. Because like they got a bunch of guys that are, that can roll down the field. You know what I mean? And we're a three-man shield team. So we have the big dancing bears, what we call them sometimes,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but yeah, so it's a little bit different schematically, but like what we will do is, watch some teams that have very similar systems to us in college and see what they do. The other big thing is, going to clinics and talking to guys there, see what they do there, because a lot of the times, it's only a handful of guys that that want to talk about special teams that way as well. So it's great to be able to hear people's thoughts and what they think works best for them. Especially it's like there's some really good coaches out there that coach special teams in college football, and they've been doing it for a really, really long time and been really consistent. So to be able to like talk to some of those guys and be able to, pick their brain about things and why they do certain things, it helps you out a lot, especially as a young coach, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to form your identity as a coach and make sure you can get to as close as perfect, for your process, you know what I mean? And that way you can always evolve and have, the proper adjustments when things come up.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Shane, I got a question that I'm really curious about too, just with like the off season. Like, what is your hand in recruiting? Do you play a big role in that? Like, are you out on the
Mhm.
road a little bit? Or are you more, watching film on the guys, sending them to the coaches? Like, what goes into that for you?
Yeah. So the way we do it is like Division 1 in general, like FBS coaching, you can only have the position coaches, and then the head coach can go out at certain times of the year.
Hmm.
There's like restrictions on when he can go out. But what we'll do is everybody has an area, so it's myself and the special teams coordinator. We kind of split up Jacksonville, Florida, and then like I have Pittsburgh and Western Pennsylvania, just because I've recruited there and
Hmm.
been out there, have some relationships. So those are the two areas that I have. But yeah, everybody has an area. We really are doing like a lot of like East Coast recruiting and things through that. Like we get into the Midwest a little bit, but West Coast not as much. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, just because there's even times where you talk to kids and they don't even know where Old Dominion is. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, and they're on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So it's definitely we do cast a big net. You know what I mean? Just because you just have to. It's just the way it goes.
Hmm.
But yeah, we I got to go on the road last what was it, last April. I got to go to some JUCOs out in East Texas. Then I went up to Lackawanna up in Pennsylvania there. So
Nice.
we had a coach that wasn't able to go on the road. So like there's some rules where you can like swap a coach for like an analyst and things
Uh,
like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It
yeah.
just has to get approved. All that kind of groundwork has to be like set forth beforehand, but
Yeah.
yeah, there's a bunch of different ways that in like also if with teams like especially these bigger programs that have like the large personnel departments, the general managers of the world, all that kind of stuff, they might take the offensive coordinator off the road and then put that general manager in his recruiting area. You know what I mean? Just
Hmm.
because I know some people do that. But yeah, like it's a really good. I think what we do here is really good. I think we get a lot of good players evaluated. I think we find the right guys for us. We still prioritize high school recruiting. You
Hmm.
know, we have, I was talking with our defensive analyst yesterday, and, out of our first couple games here on defense, I think he said it was 7 or 8 of our starters on defense were guys we recruited out of high school.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that's it's really good, for us to have that kind of stuff. And, we're going to play young guys as well,
Hmm.
Last year we are playing true freshmen that are 18 years old, game one. This year we're playing some guys as well. If they're talented enough to play and they're ready to go, we'll put those guys in the game. We're not afraid to, and especially
Hmm.
on special teams. You know what I mean? Those guys, because they're going to be ready to go. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's a little bit easier, to get guys on special teams because you don't got to memorize a whole playbook and understand, all the different, adjustments for defense or offense that you may have. We can
Hmm.
like, hey, this is where you line up. This is what your job is. Go play fast. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's so we get those young guys in there as well. And with the rule, like the 4 game rule, the 4 game redshirt rule, is great for us as well. Because and that's why it's really important for us to evaluate our guys early on. We do a lot of competitions in camp. That way we can see who's ready to go for game one. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because that game one, like, is when the most mistakes show up in games for the whole year. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And the biggest improvement is from game one to game two. So I think it's important that you prioritize that kind of stuff, like competitions like that we do and things like that. And it helps those guys, mature quicker on the field.
Hmm.
Like the bullets they're kind of flying in those situations, like game speed cannot be replicated. You know what I mean? That's why we emphasize it, playing as fast as you can in practice and things like that. So whenever you are in the game, and things happen, you can still play through it.
Right, right. That's awesome. Just two things to like just comment on that. So the young
Mhm.
players listening at home, make ODU one of those universities you want to look into. A lot of universities don't play high school freshmen right now.
Yep.
It's transfer portal friendly out there. And then two, I don't know if you saw, we're a PSAC friendly podcast, but Lackawanna, you might only have a couple of years left to
Yeah.
pull from their JUCO. They're moving to Division 2 in the PSAC, I believe,
Yeah, they
in
are.
2027 or 2028, something like
Yeah, I
that.
think I think they'll get like I think the NCAA rule is like they'll have like a 2 year like transitionary probation period where they'll play like Division 2 opponents, but they
Hmm.
can't like play in the playoffs like their first year.
Right.
I think it is like 26 or 27, yeah. But it is kind of crazy that they're going, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's gonna change, I mean, for them as well, like it's gonna change who they recruit, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
So we'll see how that pans out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have some guys that are good players, at least for those couple years that, that may not transfer out. So, and you obviously know how good the PSAC is.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think they'll be a great fit.
Yeah, absolutely. Knock, you have any other questions too?
Yeah, I've got two. This one you don't. I mean, you don't have to be too, in depth about it because it's really a team question. You were
Mhm.
talking about practice and going full speed. Obviously, you guys want to go 100% so you can be ready for game day. Can you kind of tell me, because I'm super interested, I know a couple
Mhm.
fans might be as well, in practice, when you're going 100% at full speed, are we padded up? Are we,
Mhm.
again, I understand
Yeah,
you
no, you're good.
side of the ball. It's more of like an offensive, defensive kind of question. But like when you see it in
Yeah.
practice, like are they hitting? Are they tackling? Or
Yeah. So on Tuesdays, we'll be in full pads. Wednesdays will be in what we call uppers, so just helmets and shoulder pads. But we allow the guys, we tell the guys to wear their girdles as well. Still,
okay,
so I mean, it's almost basically full gear, as well, but they're wearing shorts, you know what I mean?
gotcha.
Um, but yeah, so like on Tuesdays, we're gonna do team periods, especially during the year. We'll do a good on good period on Tuesdays with our ones, to start off practice because we think it's best for those guys, to get out there and still competing at a high level against each other. You know what I mean? I think you need to keep that. Um, but then what we call like our uh our scout teams, we call them G squad. That's what we call here, the growth
I like
squad.
that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So we will have those periods obviously in practice. And those are going to be, there are sometimes we'll do some jog throughs with those where it's like a slower pace. But most of the time, man, like those guys are going, you know what I mean? We want those guys on Tuesday to be hitting, to be rolling,
Okay,
because we're still hitting the fundamentals of tackling and blocking. You have to tackle, you have to block. You know what I mean? So we're going to emphasize that every single day. You know what I mean? On Wednesday, it might not be as a violent collision and things like that, but guys are still going to be getting to the spot that they need to be in a very fast manner, using their hands, using the proper technique. So now at the professional level, it's a way different deal. You know what I mean? You're expected to do that. You know what I mean? So they practice in just, helmets most of the time and
okay,
stuff like that once the year goes on. Plus you're paying guys a lot of money. You need them to play on Saturday.
right.
Excuse me, Sunday. But with us, yeah, we're going to do that. For basically the whole year. And it just helps our guys that are our guys that are at the 2, 3, 4 spot, they're getting reps as well. You know what I mean? And they're getting better as well. You know what I mean? We want to be
Hmm.
developing our guys constantly. You never know when your number is going to be called in whatever shape or form. If a guy goes down and he's out for the game, like you got to carry the mail. You're the next guy in and you got to go. You know what I mean? So that's how we approach that kind of stuff. And I think it helps us.
Yeah, and this last one, I just super, super light. Um,
Mhm.
this is for you actually. You're a former ball player.
Yep.
You're out there on the field every day. You see these guys practice, warming up before practice, before the game. I'm sure. You ever pick up the pigskin, toss it around, maybe run some routes with the receivers, maybe line up with the defensive backs, and just kind of test to see where you're at this age. And are they
Uh,
shocked? Do they ever see you play, run around a little bit, like, oh wow, look at Coach?
I Yeah, so what we'll do a couple times throughout the year is I'll help out with our defensive circuit and what they call a chaos circuit. And it's a couple different stations they have, and it's the I didn't play, but I get to play quarterback and I run the read option basically every play. You
Okay.
know what I mean? So I get to do that.
Shane Harbaugh.
Yeah, so I'm out there, running the read option with that in the drills, and sometimes I definitely talk a little smack to the guys, and
Okay, nice.
whenever they're coming up, things like that, let them know, I tell them I'm 30, I don't train, I'm still outrunning you, things like that,
Nice. Love it. Love it. That's
So
what I was hoping for that.
yeah, yeah. So
Uh,
whether I'm right, wrong, or indifferent on that one, probably wrong on that, but they laugh at it, and that's what it's about, getting those guys to see that, you have that side to you, and there's sometimes I do get them for sure, especially, if we run speed option, I get them on the fake pitch, cut it up, and
mm.
I put them on skates out there and I point at them and I let them know, you know what I mean?
I love it.
That's
Love it a lot.
yeah. Yeah, that's hilarious, Shane. I got one like last question for you, and then
Yeah,
just a couple of quick hitters here. But
of course.
I don't know if you have a lot to do with this. I'm sure you see it. I'm a helmet freak. I love seeing all this stuff. How crazy is it seeing like the development within equipment? And do you guys do the same thing that they do at the larger universities where they're scanning their heads to fit the helmets in a unique way? Like, can you just expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. So we do have that technology.
It's crazy.
We have like a Rydell rep that'll
Hmm.
come by a couple times a year and stuff like that. And he obviously comes in the off season. Like, yeah, like the guys put that little like looks like the ski mask type of deal on, and
Yeah.
like he just pulls out his phone and it takes like a 3D image of the guy's head, and it does fit them. The helmet fits to their head perfectly. I think it's really cool that technology is evolving that way. Even like the insides of the helmets, like it's even like from when we played, it's way different now. The materials
Yeah.
they use, you know what I mean? So, which is a crazy thing to say because like it's not like we're 45, 50 some years old.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but I think that's what's going to help the game, as it goes on, for that safety, that safety feature that a
Mhm.
lot of people talk about, and I think it's great, because technology only gets better. The materials they use are only going to get better, so
Right.
it's great.
Right. Yeah. Even the Revolution helmets when they came out for us, it's crazy. We were still using the pump in air.
Yeah.
And then as
Yeah.
Tanaka said, in the winter it gets colder, the helmets get colder and they get harder. It's like you're still in a car crash. So
Yeah.
I
The big reason why I have a little bit of CTE.
yeah. So I always think it's cool seeing the new helmets that come out and just the technology. So I wanted to ask that.
Yeah.
Um, but I did have a couple of just rapid fire questions for
Okay.
you, and then we'll get you on your way. So, number one, favorite stadium that you've coached in so far?
Uh, what comes to mind, there are two that come to mind. App State was one of them. That's a really cool stadium, really cool venue there. I, over the years, you meet some coaches and you talk to them, before the game and stuff like that, or if you bump into them, wherever. And, talking about their culture, that town eats, sleeps, and breathes, for that team. And I think
Mhm.
it's really cool, for what they do there. And they do a great job. Every year they're a really good program. I mean, they've won FCS national championships. When you see them knock off Michigan, you know what I mean?
I just showed my wife that video last night. It's funny you
Yeah.
said that.
Yeah, so it's like App State it's a really cool stadium. They got Luke Combs pumping in there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They got the kids wearing the overalls in pregame, like in the stands, and like they got this little like grassy knoll place where they stand. They're there way early. It's really cool that place. The other environment that I think is really good is James Madison. It's a really good environment there. We played there a couple years ago.
Mhm.
At their place. It was like homecoming. It was around Halloween. I mean, that place was rocking. You know what I mean? And it was a game that we lost by 3, unfortunately. But I mean, it was consistently loud there. Whenever like the first quarter, I first drive there, I'll never forget it. They had like a they I think I had like a small chunk play to start the game, ran the ball, and they completed a pass, and then they threw like a big boy post in the middle of the field and completed it, and that place went freaking nuts, And
Yeah.
then like the next play, we picked the ball off, and it was like crazy. The two differences, like that place going rocking, and like you can't hear on the headset at all,
Mhm.
too. Whenever we pick the ball off, like literally the next play after that, and
Yeah.
it's just like, wow, like that was crazy. Like this is a cool environment to be a part of. We'll be excited to go up there here in a couple weeks. We got some games before that, obviously, but
Mhm.
people are already kind of looking at that one. I saw the other day that they sold out the tickets for that game
Mm.
already.
Mhm.
So that place will be rocking for sure.
Yeah, that's those are two great answers. The just seeing the pictures, I haven't been to either. I've driven past JMU. I know they're going to be doing some renovations here to their wayside to make it even better. So those are two great answers there. For a lot of people at home that are listening, they may not know that you used to be. I'm not too sure if you still are a sneakerhead. Are you still a
A
sneakerhead right now, or what?
little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
It's drastically changed. I'll
yeah.
say that much. But yeah, like I did get those undefeated fours a couple weeks ago. I
Nice,
did get those,
nice. I
But
love
yeah,
that.
man, I still have some pairs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me, it was just a fun hobby that I had.
Hmm.
The cool thing is now is like what Nike does is they're releasing things that, you know, that were like samples and player exclusive shoes that before would go for thousands and thousands of dollars. And now they're selling them, they're making them by the mass, and it's awesome.
Hmm.
Because like before, like I was just talking about the undefeated four, it was probably a couple years ago, 7 years or so ago. I mean, it was like a $10,000 shoe, which is ridiculous, obviously,
Yeah.
right? So like now, but it's like on stock actually for like $300. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, so it's cool. Like, I did get it for retail. I
Yeah.
will brag that one.
Nice.
But I'll keep them on ice for a little bit. See
Yeah.
what happens. I'll bring them out in special occasions. I take care of myself. I mean, I've had some shoes for probably uh, over 6 or 7 years, some pairs.
Hmm.
But yeah, I love it, man. It's cool. You get compliments on it and that kind of stuff. People are like, where'd you get those and all that kind of stuff? Because sneakers have evolved the
Oh
last couple of
yeah.
years, ever since COVID hit. People, which is great. I think it's cool.
Hmm.
More people get to do that stuff, and you even see like people like on game day and things like that wearing sneakers and stuff like that. So it's cool.
Yeah, no, and I for other people again, the reason why I ask is I remember we were at Lock Haven, and my favorite shoe still to this day is the Kevin Durant sixes, the Aunt Pearls, just because my grandmother had breast cancer. The wing on the shoe was crazy. You actually helped me get that, so
Yeah.
shout out to you. Just piggybacking off of that, what is your favorite shoe?
Oh man, let me think here. Let me think. I got a couple. Hold on. If you give me a second, I'll go grab them. Is that all
Yeah,
right?
go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Do you have a favorite shoe?
Probably those KD on Pearl sixes. If you look those up, they're pretty sly. I still have them. They're like a pearl white with like pink. He made them for his aunt who passed away from breast cancer. So I really like those. And then I like the Jordan 1 Lost ones. Those are probably my favorite Jordans. I want to get a pair of those so bad. What about you?
You know what, bro? I'm a simple dude. White Air Force One.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, New Balances are like my favorite shoe brand right now. I have a couple
Okay,
pair
yeah,
of
yeah,
those
they've come out with some
clean.
nice shit over the last couple of years. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at these right now. The
Are
KD.
those the ones? Let me see. I think they're the sixes. They're so beautiful. I still have them to this day. I don't like wear them at all.
Ugh,
No, those aren't the right ones. I think
no,
they might be the fives or the sevens. They have like a wing strap. So, oh well, we could leave that in, but
sure.
yeah,
Oh, I'll go.
I'll send it to you.
The first pair I'll go with here is the
Ah,
the
the
the Air
Travis
Jordan.
Scotts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fragment lows. Got these from a guy that he lives in he lives out in Texas now actually, but he was a guy that played at Lycoming, and
Mm,
he was big into sneakers up there, and he hooked me up, traded some shoes for it at the time. They're still, I mean, they're still unworn.
I was
They're
gonna say,
that's
y-
100% stars on them.
yeah.
But those are one of the beauties there. And the other ones, these are I'm a one guy for sure through and
Mm,
through. But these are the the Black Toe Union collab from I think it was like 2018.
mhm.
Um, the I do have the other version, the Storm Blue version as well.
Right.
I used to have two pairs of those. I sold one of those, but yeah, those ones are still actually unworn. Like they're still bad stock.
Yeah,
I'm just waiting for the day. You know what I mean?
yeah, right. Special occasion, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean?
That
But yeah,
that that's awesome. I was just telling Tanaka that my favorite like Jordan shoes are the ones too. More specifically, the Lost ones. They're just so clean, like
yeah,
the red with the like creamish white and the black. Ah,
yep,
perfection,
yep.
perfection. Um, and then last question I have for you here too, Shane. I don't know if you have anything else after this. Obviously, I just don't want to hold you up too long. But you've coached positions. You're now doing quality control for special teams. But within the next 5 to 10 years, where do you kind of see yourself? Will it be more of the position? Are you working towards coordinator or head coach? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll say it this way, like as of right now, you know what I mean? Like my goals and aspirations are to be a special teams coordinator. And to me, like I don't care what level it's at. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I think it's something that I am passionate about. I really like it. I think it gives you a great relationship with the players. And I think it sets up, you know, who you can be, as a coach, you know what I mean? Because you can help install culture, you're that leadership role for the program. Um, but I think that 5 to 10 years, it's hard to say, it's hard to even
Yeah.
say in the next couple months, you know what I mean? It's just the way the profession goes, man. I do have some schools, like the dream schools of the world, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Would like to get back into the Northeast somewhere, you know what I mean? Um, but I think it's a hard question to answer like
Yeah.
specifically, you know, and
Right.
a lot can change in 10 years, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
As of right now, I'll say like I don't have head coach aspirations. But you could ask me in 6 years and it could be way different. You know what I mean? I could
Right.
be going after any type of head coach job, whatever the case may be, you know what I mean? Because I think that's a thing in your career where you just hit like this point, you're like, I think I want to be a head coach now. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, we'll see where it goes. Just kind of take it day by day, year by year type of deal, and
Yep.
try to keep plugging along, man.
Great answer. Great answer. A little Shane Belichick there with the special teams, man. So I love that. Knock, do you have anything else, or Shane, do you have anything else?
No, the one thing I'll ask you guys is, is where do you want this thing to grow to? What do you want it to evolve into?
Knock, do you want to start? You want me to start?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. You're the host, so I'll let the best end last. I mean, honestly, dude, growing up as kids, all three of us, I'm sure, we watch Sports Center in the mornings right before school and game day and the NFL Network and things along those, that line. And if kids are watching us one day, I just kind of hope that Mike and I could potentially be a future face for the next generation. Whether that is being extremely professional or unapologetically ourselves, it really doesn't matter as long as we put out a good solid body of work, and I hope that young kids could try to emulate us and take that leap of faith that he and I are trying to do. One last thing that I'd like to go, it's a small goal of mine, but I'd like to travel to colleges. I'd like to see the game on the field. I'd like to interview the players and the coaches and the fans right there up close and personal. I hope that we can get to that point at one day.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I think those things are very attainable. You know what I mean? I think you guys, getting this thing rolling, this is the best time to do it, best time of year. It's the busiest, for sports and things like that, and it's when social media is always clicking on this thing. You
Hmm.
see a viral tweet every other day about something, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's kind of all it takes now is like one clip for you guys, you know what I mean? So you're kind of one clip away mentality.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was spot on. I mean, for me, Shane, obviously I played the game, was able to play a little bit in college, and then I went to school for communication. So originally always wanted to get into some sort of sports journalism or broadcasting, but coming out of college, it just wasn't the right time. Found myself into different avenues that I still enjoy, but sports has just always been my thing, more specifically like college, from small schools to the big Division 1. I've always been a nerd for it. I mean, you could ask Knock, I'm always like searching things or studying things of how it works within the athletic department and what goes into the NIL stuff now, and even just stadiums. Like I love college stadiums too. So I thought, what better time now? 10 years ago, I was nervous to do something like this just because I thought of what people think. And hopefully now, what I would really love is for us to balloon up, whether that's just us starting, a news or a new like sports casting thing or whatever that may be, or people seeing the work that we put in and wanting to team up, if it's the bar stools or FanDuels, whoever it may be, not even just gambling. I could even say like ESPN or Yahoo, CBS. I just want this to balloon up, and I love having an avenue to kind of share my opinion and my love of the sport for other people who also have that.
Yeah, and I think that's like, the biggest thing is, with you guys, is it's true passion behind it. You know what I mean? Like you guys are doing it for the love of it. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I think no matter what, like you're going to get some satisfaction out of that in itself.
Yep, absolutely, man. I
One thing
Go ahead,
about
Knock.
Mike, Mike, he said it like I've always been a nerd for college. Funny little story. I've known Mike for like, I don't know, 17 years now, something like that. And I used to pull up the social studies class in seventh grade. And while we all kind of watched football and played it, Mike every week had the brand new edition of the college football magazine that was out because we did read magazines back then. We didn't have smartphones.
Yeah.
So Mike has absolutely been true to this since as long as I can remember.
Yep. I remember remember being a kid and always in Sports Illustrated, we would always subscribe to it or whatever. And they had the thing that was faces in the crowd. That
Mm-hmm.
was the one portion. And I remember when Josh Seidel was in it, the kid running
Yep.
back from the
Yep.
court. And yeah, when he was
Yep.
going off that year, he was in that. And I was like, that was the coolest thing, like for me, to
Oh,
see something like
yeah.
that, a guy from the area, So like,
Oh, yeah.
like having that obsession for things like that, I remember just always wanting to read and look up things. I still read things to this day, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like
Oh,
reading
yeah.
different athletes' books now, like it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I don't know if you guys were the same too, just speaking on my love of the sport, and it goes into NFL, and it was mainly football, obviously hockey I like and stuff like that. But when I would get the Sports Illustrated as a kid, I don't know if you guys also cut out like the pictures or
Mm,
pages and plastered
yes.
them up on your wall, but
Yes.
my walls were just covered and everything. And I
Yep.
remember one of my favorite players was Chad Greenway from Iowa, just because he had the middle linebacker. He was 100 tackles. Just weird stuff goes into that. Even in,
Yeah.
in the NFL, D'Amico Ryans was my favorite player just because
Yep.
the Alabama background, and now seeing him go. I had his red Texans jersey, and now he's the head coach there. It's just
Yeah.
crazy how
It's
time moves
crazy.
on.
Yep.
But no, great question there, Shane. I appreciate you asking that,
Yeah, man,
man.
of course.
Anytime you want to come back on, bro, blow me
That'd be
up, hit
awesome.
me up. Please come on. Anybody else at ODU that would love to come on, feel free to do so. We're an ODU friendly podcast now. We definitely
Yeah.
got to catch a game. So I know Tanaka and I will be talking about that, maybe trying to see something
Yeah, dude.
this year. So we'll keep you
Perfect.
posted on that.
Yeah, let me know. And, thank you guys, for letting me come on. Like I said, this is a cool opportunity for me. It's like my first time getting to do something like this, so,
Mhm.
doing it for you guys, it means a lot to me as well, that you guys are thought of me to, do something like this for you. So I really appreciate that fact as well. And, I
Mhm.
hope this thing, goes the right way for you guys. I'll be supporting you the whole way through, and like I said, whenever you guys want to come by, just let me know, man, and we'll get you hooked up.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, from the bottom of our hearts, it really does mean a lot for you coming on and believing on us so early. And for the people that are listening and interested in following along on, Shane's journey. Obviously, he doesn't post that much on Twitter with being a coach, but it's at Coach Baker
At
on
Coach Shane
Twitter.
Baker. It's my
At
first
Coach
name,
Shane
first
Baker.
and last name with coach in front of it.
Yes, absolutely. So make sure you follow him and follow along too.
Yep. Follow ODU football.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you follow the guys here and keep
Play with
supporting me.
ODU. Played with ODU on College Football 26.
There you go.
Get you some of that money kicked back. I'll send you a picture when I win the Natty Championship tonight with you guys. All right, man. Well, thank you again, brother. It's
Yep.
always a pleasure.
Thanks, man. Enjoy your day. Make sure you guys watch some games.
Absolutely.
Take notes for it. Write
Yeah.
some notes down. That way you guys can keep learning.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be sitting on my couch. Yeah, enjoy the day off, brother. Talk to you soon.
We'll talk. All right, we'll see you.
All right, see ya.
Bye.